Hey everybody, it's Amanda, and today is Friday, August 15th. Today's video is going to be a little personal. Today's my dad's birthday, and so I thought I would talk a little bit about my dad today. My dad is no longer with us. Sadly, in 2010, March, he was taken from us suddenly when he had what they call a AAA. He had an abdominal aortic aneurysm. And I just wanted to do this video to, talk a little bit about him, because I thought about him a lot today, and, it's his day. And so I just thought I would share a little bit about him with you and tell you a little bit about the lessons I've learned from him, and maybe just more about why I am who I am. First off, I'm really proud of my dad. He had a lot of struggles in his life, and he overcame them, and I think that's kind of like how I see him. My dad was very charismatic, and the way that I saw him was that he was always looking to find solutions. Like if anything ever went wrong, he would act like it was no big deal. Like, no big deal. Okay, well, let's just figure it out. He was always like that, and I could give you some examples, but I'll go back to the beginning from what I know. Anyway, my dad, first off, when he was young, his parents passed away when when he was in his teens, and he went into some foster homes, and, so he struggled a little bit in his early life, but what I admire about him is that he became an entrepreneur very early in his life. My mom told me that he actually sold holiday magic, which apparently was something like Avon, and he went door to door doing that. And I never even knew that until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. But, he ended up opening his own clothing business. It was really successful in Chicago. He had this storefront in Chicago, and, eventually he did really well. He traveled all over, to Korea and Japan and New York and California, and he just went everywhere with his business. And so he was really successful, which gave us a really good life growing up. We had this really nice home in the woods with a pool and 3 acres, and, I just appreciate it so much now that, he was able to provide for our family, and my mom was able to stay home with us, and because of that, my sisters and I were able to go take dance classes, and my mom could drive us everywhere, and my mom could always go to our recitals and soccer practice, and she was just there all the time. And, so I really appreciate my dad for allowing her to do that. And he was fun. We had, it's like he was always so inviting. Him and my mom would invite everyone over. Every weekend we'd have a pool party, and they'd have diving contests and just silly contests. We'd play baseball in the front yard, and, he was fun. And, every 4th of July, we'd grill out, of course, at our house, and all the cousins would come over, and he'd buy all these fireworks. Like, he'd go to Indiana because, I don't know, they were less expensive or something, or not illegal or something to get them. I don't know, maybe here in Illinois you weren't supposed to get them here. But anyway, he would put this huge fireworks show off in our front yard, and everyone loved to come over and see it. And he was just fun everywhere. You kind of came into the room, and he would like make a joke, or he could talk to anybody. That's what I admire about him. He could talk to anybody. And so he worked his business downtown Chicago, and then he worked it out of his home. And things were going along great. And by the time I went to college, everything was fine, but all of a sudden, something happened where the business started to fizzle. Well, it ended up where my parents ended up getting a divorce, and so I was in college at the time, and then, we moved out of that house, and that house had so many memories. So I think it was at that point where my dad started to have a little more challenges, and he struggled because I think, and I don't even know exactly what happened, but, they split up, and everyone kind of split, and I had 4 sisters, there's 5 girls, and I think it was really hard for my dad to realize that once we split up, he didn't have that family bond anymore. The family had nowhere to come over. We kind of went all different directions, and my dad had a really hard time at that time. He lost the business, and he ended up going into sales, which he was really good at. He ended up making it work, and he sold cars, and he was very good at that. And but as a family, it just divided us a little bit. My sisters and my mom and I, we all kind of stayed together, but my dad was kind of out on his own, and he struggled a lot. And it was then that, he ended up coming from somewhere that he never had been. He ended up finding a church, and he went there, and he asked for help, and he found it. He found this wonderful family at this amazing Ashburn Baptist Church, and he found a home. He was happy again. And the reason I'm telling you this is because he I don't know, my dad never went to church before. I think what happened was he was traveling so much that he missed a lot of family time with us, but yet he did have a lot of family time with us. And so when he went to the church, it was like he found that family again. And he became really good friends with families, and we started going with him, and we started seeing the impact that he had on the people there, and he just got really involved, and he was just one of those people that everyone loved to see. And going there to that church, it was so nice to see everybody just loved my dad, and I could see why, because he just made everybody feel special. He would talk to everybody. It could be like a 3-year-old child to a 90-year-old woman, and I've actually witnessed him do that. He just would make them feel special and compliment them and just be sincerely interested in them and care about them. And he got so involved and so passionate in what he was doing that it was just great. It was so wonderful to see. And I saw a big change in my dad, and I think the lesson that I learned there was that you don't have to let your past predict what your future is going to be, because my dad came from nothing. He grew up nothing. He was in foster homes, and then he had his own successful business for years, and then he had another bump in the road, and then he was almost homeless pretty much. Well, he was homeless, actually, almost living in hotels, and then he found his way again. He got his own place, and he found this family with this church and made best friends, and we made friends with them. And so he was actually in the middle of doing this play with the church, and at a rehearsal when he was sick over that weekend. Or he wasn't even sick, he just had some stomach pain, went to the hospital, and then that night, he was gone, and we really didn't have a chance to say goodbye. The last thing I know we were talking about was my sister and I, our birthdays are close together, and my dad was talking about where are we going to go. We were going to go to his favorite Italian restaurant. We always used to go to this Italian restaurant, Papa Joe's, in Orland Park on Tuesdays. And we would always go to breakfast on Sundays, and and everything was going so well. My sister had bought a house, and she had a pool in her yard, and so we would all start going over to the house. And so it was so nice. All the family was coming back together again. We would hang out at my sister's house, and we'd go there for 4th of July and Memorial Day, and it was just I think he was so happy because everything was coming together, and the family was coming back together again. And even him and my mom, even though they were divorced, they were talking and whatnot. So it's just, he would always find a way. I remember there were times when we were driving, I went to school in Iowa, and we were driving to Iowa, and our car broke down on the side of the road, and I had 45 minutes left to get there, and I had to be there for this dance rehearsal. And my dad's like, don't worry, let's just coast over there. We ended up coasting into this gas station, and he's like, we're going to find a way. And he looks down the road, and he's like, look, there's a car for sale. So he sees this old beat-up car. It was this yellow four-door, I don't know what it was, Oldsmobile or something, and it was for sale for $300. And he just said, we'll just buy the car. So we bought the car for $300 just so he can get me to school. I just remember things like that happening a lot. There's another time we were on our way to school and the tire blew out, and, you know, he's like, no problem. He just walked miles and miles to the gas station. You know, he just did things like that. I guess it was like whenever a problem came up, you know, he never really like complained and whined and dwelled on it. He just immediately, his mind went into like solution mode, and he had to figure it out. And that's how it was when he was with me. And, you know, I don't know how it was with, you know, my parents or whatever, but I'm just talking about the things that I remember. And I just know my cousins and, you know, even my aunts to this day. I know that of course he was a charismatic guy, you know, but, you know, at the end, what I am grateful and happy about is that he was happy, you know, and my dad, you know, believed in Jesus Christ and God, and like he wanted to go to heaven, and he knew he was going to go. And so the peaceful thing that I have in my mind is that, you know, he is where he wanted to be. And as sad as it is that he's not here, you know, I know he's happy, and I know he's watching over us. He passed away in 2010, and I got married at the end of 2010, and I had my daughter in 2011, and my son in 2012, so, you know, I'm sad that he never got a chance to meet them, but, you know, we talk about him a lot, and they know Grandpa Paul's in heaven, and so, you know, it's sad. It's very sad, of course, and, you know, you're not going to get over it, but, you know, I'm happy that he was ready, he was in a happy place, and we couldn't have been in a better place with our family at the time, you know, that we lost him. And so I know he's looking down on us, and, you know, one thing I wish I would have talked to him more about was business. You know, he had his own business, and he worked out of the house, and we were going to school and college and all that, and never really talked too much about it. Well, when I started in my first network marketing company, it was actually way back, 1996 is when I first got exposed to a company. And I came home, and, you know, somebody had given me the book Think and Grow Rich. Well, I went into my dad's library of books, and I found all these books that I had suddenly been exposed to. You know, he had How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, and The Greatest Salesman in the World, or something like that. But he had The Power of Positive Thinking, and I started talking to him about that, you know, and we just kind of bonded over that. And I think that maybe I get my entrepreneurial mindset from him, because I know that there's a better way out there. My dad did it. I know it's possible, and that's why I want to follow in those footsteps and continue to try to be all that I can be and provide my family what he was able to provide us. And so I just want to make this video to say I love you, Dad. I miss you so much, and you always called me your darling daughter number 2. So I just wanted to, you know, dedicate this to you and say I love you. I miss you so much. Okay, the baby's crying, so I actually have to go. But thanks you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Happy birthday, Dad.